Hi, and welcome to Pat Bear's Anime Club, an ongoing video series where I, Pat Bear, talk about a theme, topic, something to do in the world of anime. Maybe it's a preview of an upcoming season, maybe it's telling you what my favorite shows are in a particular genre, and occasionally this series is more of a storytelling element where I talk about a period of time and my own personal connection with that period of time and anime. I did an episode about anime clubs and my involvement in them, like the clubs that I belong to, um, and kind of a description of what that was, because that was a particular era and time that we don't really have today. Now you can stream stuff, or you can easily find torrents, or you can illegally stream things much easier than the tape trading or the go to a location with a bunch of VHS tapes or maybe DVDs or VCDs that someone has to watch anime and then be like, oh, do you have another tape of that? Because I've got this thing. Do you want to watch this? And that was how you got to see anime. So I'm going to talk about similar to that. I'm going to talk about a period in time, which was for me. It was the summer of 2000 till the fall of 2001, which was an incredible time in my life because that was a time where I worked at an import store. And I use that in quotation marks because I worked in an anime store, but they didn't call it uh, an anime store because even in 2000, that's not necessarily a good descriptive term. So instead, we'll call it an import store. And because this is story time, I don't have more slides than this. So we're going to switch to a different look. It's a bigger version of me. Hi, it's me. And just in the title that I worked at an import store so you remember what I'm talking about. Anyway, so I worked at a store called Charms with a Z, Animation and Gifts. So Charms, Animation and Gifts, and it had a Z instead of an S, and it was in a mall. Now this store had started as a kiosk in the mall, in the center, and then eventually they got a store, and then eventually they got a store in another mall, and then that store moved out of the mall into just like a shopping plaza area, like a brick and mortar store. But these were physical stores where you would go to buy anime and anime related products. Um, was a customer of said store and then became an employee to set the scene. In the year 2000, in the summer, late spring, early summer of 2000, I returned back to Connecticut, where I was born, after spending a year at college. And the plan was I was going to work and maybe take a couple like acting classes and then move to New York to pursue acting school. I was going to go to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. But I had a year to just kind of like hang out and work and save up some money because I was going to go to New York. That was the plan. And so I worked for my dad, who was a house painter, and I did a bunch of odd jobs. And then the store I was a customer at, I said, hey, are you taking applications? I'm looking for part time or full time work. Got a part time job at Charms because they were one, they were looking for people, and two, I was knowledgeable about the product because I had been purchasing things. So let's talk about what they sold there: charms, animation, and gifts. Um, let's break this down into two categories: legal things and question mark legal in and slash illegal things. So legal things. We're talking the imports. Hello Kitty merchandise that was purchased and imported from Japan. Wall scrolls. Those were legit wall scrolls of anime. Model kits. This is the place where I got into building model kits. I had bought model kits from them. I had bought some stuff at hobby shops, but at the time, the year 2000 and 2001, it was hard to find those at your local hobby shop unless they had like an anime section. But you could find like something like the most popular, like the Swordfish 2 from Cowboy Bebop. You could find that in some stores. But if you wanted Gundam stuff, it was hard to find that at your local craft shop because they're plastic model kits from Japan. The they weren't cars, so or tanks, so they were harder to find. But you could find them at an import shop, and those were legit. That's where I got into model kit building. So those were legal. Let's say Hello Kitty stuff, wall scrolls, um, model kits, action figures, uh, That's the stuff that was legal and easily acquired through import. And then there was the um, questionable stuff, the fan subs. Even fan subbers didn't want you to sell copies of VHS tapes to people, but that was the biggest seller in the store. Was, hey, do you want to watch more Dragon Ball Z than is what's on TV seasons later in Dragon Ball Z? You can buy fan subs of that. These are VHS copies that, now, did we make the tapes in the store? No. We would get them. Somebody was making them. Most likely, where they're purchasing other things, there were people who were getting these VHS tapes and then copying them, mass copying them, photocopying, and then sticking on a label and releasing them. Um, these were not the fan sub groups doing this, because the fan sub groups didn't want you to do this. And even some of them would say, hey, not for resale. If you paid money for this, you got ripped off, that kind of thing. Um, but then there was a business in this. Sometimes you go to a comic book store and you could get like Akira on VHS, or you could, and you went to the section that had like that Fantastic Four movie or the Star Wars Christmas special. You could also find some like VHS tapes that were fan subs. Well, this was the whole thing. This was most of the selling point of the store, was people who were like coming in with their checklist written down, uh, and or maybe they had a PDA and they were like, okay, ooh, I have up to episode 52 of Dragon Ball Z. So let's see if they have a new volume of that. They don't. Okay. They got DBZ movie 7. I don't have that. Let me get that. Or, hey, do you have anything like this? Oh, I see you have Card Captor Sakura. Do you have the episodes that they didn't dub? Yes, we do. Do you have the season of Yu-Gi-Oh that they didn't at the time, they haven't dubbed yet? The season 0? Yes, we do. Um, and of course, that's illegal. But you can say, is it legal? It's not. It's not illegal. And then we had the stuff that was definitely illegal, 100% illegal, and those were the CDs. Oh, anime soundtrack CDs were very illegal because these were not imported from Japan. These were imported from China, and they had photocopied art on the back and the front, and they didn't the CDs were blank on the front, but they were rip CDs, and they were, if they had plastic on it, they were shrink wrapped, by a machine, by a person, and the sound quality was fine, but it was clearly these were bootlegs, and so we sold those. Because also, where are you going to get those? You're going to spend money to import them from Japan. Maybe you knew of a website that sold like Sailor Moon CDs, and they bought in bulk, and they were legit. But most people didn't have access to that. And I guess posters. I said wall scrolls. There were also posters. I have no idea if those were legit or not. We didn't sell like T-shirts or anything. We sold some import stuff of like video game things now and again, like Dragon Ball PlayStation games, or like GBA carts of some kind of fighting game. But like Yu Hakusho, most of the time you were just people were in there to buy VHS tapes, and later they were in the store to buy DVDs. And you might remember those DVDs. They had like very poor subtitles on them. Like they literally translated Yugi's name. So it was like game, or Yami Yugi was Dark Game. And it's like, oh, Dark Game is here. And it's like, that's not. You don't have to do that. But you get 10 episodes on a DVD, so it was worth it. Anyway, I worked at that store. I worked in the mall, and then eventually, towards the end of my year and change working for the company, I worked in the physical location that was outside of a mall, which was great. Because working for a mall has some plus sides. There's a food court there, easy to get to. Um, uh, you don't have to worry about the front of your store. You just have to worry about the thing, and you get neighbors and whatever. And I got a discount in the food court, and that was great. Um, what the thing about working in a mall is that I found out most people don't want to buy anime at 10 in the morning. So I would just be open for nobody. And the worst was around Christmas, where you had to be open at 7 or 8 a.m. because you had to be open when the mall opens and close when the mall closes. You couldn't set your own hours in the mall. Makes sense, right? But we didn't sell things at 8 in the morning a week before Christmas. So a typical day, get in there, open up. I'd say 10 a.m. I want to say it was 10 a.m. Maybe it was 9 a.m. I think it was 10 a.m. Open the store up, do a little cleaning, make sure the money's right. put a anime CD on because we would open a copy of each so we could play, and then also people could be like, "Hey, what can you play track 5 on this? I want to make sure that I'm buying the right CD or whatever." But it was mostly just like to have things going on in the store. I would put in the Berserk soundtrack to open up because that was just like a cool soundtrack in there. I played a lot of Cowboy Bebop, of course. I had my favorites. Um, and you know, play some music, clean up a little bit, make sure the store is looking good, dust here and there, restock if they last night if they hadn't restocked the night before, and then sit for a very long time because we were just waiting for school to get out, waiting for schoolers to come and buy anime, uh, or parents to bring their kids later to buy anime. You didn't have much customers. Sometimes you would have people like, you know, if you've been to a mall when it opens, you've got the people that are going around to exercise. And we put a lot of Hello Kitty stuff near the windows of the store to attract customers because maybe I could sell some Hello Kitty. There was one lady that would come in once a week to buy Card Captor Sakura tape for her daughter because her daughter wanted to watch all the episodes. And you may know the Card Captors, the dub, skipped a bunch of episodes. They cut a lot of content out. For some reason, they thought their target audience would be boys, and so they needed to get the main boy in there who isn't, he doesn't appear early in the series. They have to, so they like cut a bunch of episodes. So the lady, she would buy that. There were a couple people that would come in and peruse. There was someone that was always trying to make a deal for a giant Bats Maru that I kept saying, I can't sell this to you at a discount. And then he would try to haggle with me, and then he would leave. He never bought that Bats Maru. I sold it to somebody else for how much it was worth. Thank you very much. Um, but yeah, I mean, that was it. It was mostly just like if inventory came in, if there's a delivery, I would help do with inventory. And mostly I just sat there waiting for someone to come in. I would close for 15 minutes to go buy lunch if I didn't bring my lunch. And then I would sit there and eat. Um, Eventually, I figured I brought a CD into the computer because it was hooked up to the phone line, and I figured out that I could dial into AOL on there and just check my email and then disconnect because I didn't want to stay on the phone line for too long in case customers called or my boss called to check in, which he did frequently. Um, and here's the thing that I ended up doing in that store towards the end, uh, and then I really did when I transferred to the other store, which was at a physical location, because we set the hours. So I think we did like 12 to 5 or something, because even then it was open too early. I just watched anime at that job. When I worked at the import store at Charms Animation and Gifts, I watched a lot of anime. There was because it was VHS tapes, we had a big TV that you could see as you walked by to attract people. And then we had a smaller TV that was meant for checking the VHS tapes, make sure they're right, make sure they're working before people buy them. Well, I would just put in whatever I wanted to watch. Oh, we got another thing of Rurouni Kenshin. Oh, we've got Silent Mobius. There's someone, we have the whole set of Silent Mobius. Okay, I'm just going to watch all of this anime. I'm going to get caught up on, and especially the DVDs. Now, if I was working 2 days in a row, I might take a DVD home and finish watching it and bring it back. But most likely, I hooked up the DVD player to the test VCR TV combo, and I just watched there. I just watched tapes all day because I was the only person in the store. Now on the weekends, when I would work on the weekends, there'd be another employee, so we couldn't do that. But then you just chat with the other employee. All the other employees were maybe a little younger than me or my age. And so we would just chat about whatever was going on. We would just talk about stuff. And it was totally like fun to chat about shows and get recommendations and find out stuff out. At one point, they started hiring me to build model kits for display. And that was supposed to be done on my own time. And they were going to pay me to do my own time, but I just did it at work. I would just have the box and build out of the box. And then if a customer came in, put that aside. Maybe I would even continue working on it while keeping an eye on them. And they would ask me about model kits. I sold a bunch of model kits while building a model kit. My best week at the store was when I was working on a master grade, and people were like, "Wait, you don't need glue?" And I was like, "No." And this is a hard one. There are easier ones, and I showed them the high grades, and I was like, "Here are the shows that are on Cartoon Network right now, or Adult Swim or whatever." And I'm like, "And this is my favorite kit." And they would be like, "Oh, that's so, I mean, it's hard, but it's not hard." And it'd be like, yeah. And then I sold a bunch. I sold a ton of kits that week that I was building in store. Of course, I couldn't say that because I wasn't supposed to. I was supposed to be attentive to the customers, which I was. Um, but yeah, I definitely took advantage of that very shady store. Eventually, they would move locations and they would try a bunch of things after I left because I was going to New York and I just didn't want to work that job anymore because it wasn't a full time job. It didn't pay great. I was losing money on gas, but it was a fun job. I wasn't losing money on gas, but I was spending more money on gas than I probably should have been. It was probably too far away. Um, but also, I didn't pay for anime that year. I didn't buy VHS tapes that year. I just borrowed or watched in the store. I saved a lot of money. I used my employee discount on model kits and saved a bunch of money. Um, and I made a career out of it. If I become a manager there, maybe, but I wasn't going to become a manager there. It wasn't a long term plan. As I was starting to say, eventually they started like doing rooms, like karaoke rooms where you could rent, and they had like game systems in there, and they would sell snacks. They were trying to pivot, and it just wasn't right for the area. The main thing was. A store in a mall was too expensive for what they were trying to do, and a brick and mortar store, like, yeah, it was next to a pizza place, but you had to go out of your way to get it. So we had repeat customers, but you weren't getting new customers in a physical store like that. The mall, even if it was a bad idea, still brought in a lot of people who were like, wait, what's this store? Which you can't get just being in a shopping plaza. Um, but I enjoyed my time there, and every once in a while, I think back to Charms Animation and Gifts, and the stock there and the time I spent there. It was a good job. I wish I had that job in high school instead of like in between things. That would have been a great part-time job at high school. Uh, I like the people. I like the job. It's a weird moment in time where I'm like, yeah, I worked at an import store. I mean, they're still out there. There's a couple. There was two in New York that I frequented to buy model kits, and you could still buy stuff. I know they're still out there. There are still stores that do this thing. They do a bunch of different things. They don't just do that. Or there are stores that like within a comic book store, there'll be the anime section and stuff like that. It's not as much, DVDs like bootleg DVDs these days. It's mostly imports and legit. Uh, I bet there are still bootleg CDs you can find in the store. And I could spot them. I could spot them from a mile away at this point. I know the signs. But yeah, I mean that's kind of my story about working at an import store. I loved it. I think it was a really fun time. Um, it was a good part-time job. I think, makes her a good story. So thanks for hanging out here in story time with Pat. This is Pat Bear's Anime Club. Oh, we'll go back to this one here, I guess. But yeah, I have a couple ideas for future Pat Bear's Anime Club episodes. I have a thought in my head about like second seasons of shows and how maybe some shows didn't actually need a second season. But that's a future video. I'm gonna do a wrap up of the summer anime season and a preview of the fall anime season for 2021 coming soon. So keep an eye on that. And if you have any ideas for videos you'd like to see in the future, leave a comment below. And did you go to stores that had this? Was it like a comic book store that had a few fan subs in the back, or did you go to a store like what I'm describing, or maybe your hobby shop had some Gundam in the back and some other stuff, and you were like, I don't know what any of this is. Or did your local video store have a hentai section? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you about that. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next Pat Bear's Anime Club. Goodbye.